Good evening, everybody. Good evening, members, officers, visitors, and members of the public. My name is Councillor Andy Booth. For the process of this evening, please address me as Chairman. I'm not a chair, I sit on a chair. This meeting may be recorded and proceedings will be conducted in accordance with the Council's constitution, which I presume all members are familiar with. Thank you. It includes procedural rules and the available on the Council's website. Firstly, I'd like to announce changes to the membership of this committee. So by a simple yes, can you please state whether you're here? Mike Baldock? Hayden Braun? Anne Kavanagh? Yes. Lloyd Chapman? Yes. Kieran Golding? Yep. James Hunt? Yep. Peter Marchington? Ben J. Martin? Yes. Claire Martin? Yes. Paul Stephen? Yes. Terry Thompson? Yep. And Tony Winklis?
Yes.
Superb, thank you very much. First point is the emergency evacuation procedure. We are not expecting a fire drill this evening. If the bell does sound, please make your way to the nearest available exit, to my left and to my right. Please do not use the lifts. You will be escorted from the building to an assembly point. Please stay there until the building is safe to come back to, which you'll be notified of at that time. Does any member or member of the public require assistance out of the building this evening? No, thank you very much. Right, forgive me, I've got a lot to read. Members must consider each application and everything that is said in this meeting concerning the application and make their decision based solely on their planning judgment of the information available to them. Following a decision by this committee, delegated authority is given to the planning officer to issue the decision notice. Planning permission is not granted or refused until the issue of that decision notice. Do we have any members of the committee here this evening that are not members of this committee or members of the council? Councillor Harrison, thank you. I'll read this out, and Councillor No, thank you. Any member of the council who is not a member of the planning committee may attend as a visiting member and may speak, having given prior notification. Such visiting members may of course include ward members, and whilst visiting members can speak on an application, they are not permitted to vote. Councillor No.
Sorry, Chair, I'm substituting for Councillor Julian Speed.
Okay, we'll come on to that, so you get to say it twice. Thank you. Any member acting as a substitute on the planning committee must have undertaken appropriate training before doing so. Members must remain in the meeting for the whole time that each item is being debated and should not vote on that item if they leave the meeting. I think everybody is aware of that rule. It doesn't matter if it's 3 seconds, you can't vote. I'd now like to welcome our public speakers and remind them that they have 3 minutes to speak. I am a stickler for time, but I'm known to have a little bit of lenience on timing of the speakers. There's an audible warning when 30 seconds remains of that speaking time. Okay. Kelly, please, apologies for absence and substitutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies received from Councillors Julian Speed, and his substitute is Councillor Tarano, Councillor Peter MacDonald, Councillor Simon Clark, his substitute is Councillor Angela Harrison, and Councillor Elliot Jays. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you to those members that are substituting this evening. Thank you. Agenda item 3, that's the minutes of the meeting held in this chamber on the 3rd of April this year. That's minutes number 789 to 796. Are members that were present at that meeting happy for me to sign them as a true record of that meeting? Agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. I'll sign them at the end of this meeting. Agenda item 4, this is pecuniary interests and non-pecuniary interests. I take it that all members are familiar with the observation of interests and notification. Anybody not? Cool, thank you. Does anybody wish to table an interest? No? Good. Now we turn to part B, reports for the Planning Committee to decide. I've taken the liberty to change the agenda. We will hear items 2.1, then 2.2, then 2.3, and 1.1 we will hear last. Okay? So, turn to page 79 of your agenda pack. And by way of question, has everybody read the 200 pages? There's a few wry smiles, but generally it's expected that you have. It avoids embarrassing questions. So, we are on to 2.1. Can I ask, please, Luke, can you give us an update, and keep it to an update, please, Luke, on the application? Thank you.
Of course, thank you, Chairman. So there is an update for this application, mainly based on the conditions. Some of the conditions anyway. The first one is to do with what's condition 21, which concerned with electric vehicle charging points. There's a slight inconsistency between the transport statement and the proposed site plan, because the transport statement said that 4 spaces would be required. The site plan only showed 3. Upon clarification, the applicant confirmed that providing 4 wasn't possible on the site at the moment because there's a lack of electricity supply. So the wording of condition 21 has been altered to require the applicant or agent to provide final details further along the line if the application is approved. Other slight amendments are to do with conditions 8 and 11. The applicant requested that the trigger point for these conditions be altered from prior to commencement, and seeking clarification from KCC Ecology, they were content that the trigger point for these conditions can be prior to the development coming into operation. So those have been changed accordingly. As a verbal update also, as a recent check on the site confirmed that the former hotel building has completely been demolished. So whether the trigger, to make the application consistent with that, the trigger point for conditions 12, 13, 17 and 19, which relate to biodiversity net gain, habitat management and monitoring, construction and archaeological assessments, has been changed from prior to commencement to no further development shall be carried out until those details are provided.
Thank you very much. We now have some speakers. We have 3 speakers, 1 remote and 2 in person. Can I ask, please, Councillor Jean Gray, are you online and can you hear us?
I am online and I can hear you.
Superb. Good evening and welcome. Jean, you have 3 minutes. Are you ready?
I am.
The floor is yours, please.
Thank you. The application is in conflict with local, swale and national plans. Some traffic concerns. 1. There is nowhere in the application for parking or access for lorries. This means they will add to the number already parked illegally on the slip road, leaving so little room for others to pass that the bus driver often has to get out to pull his mirrors in. It could also lead to illegal parking in other areas of Dunkirk. 2. At busy times with congestion on the slip road, a traffic queue could form going back onto the A2 with obvious danger. 3. Traffic leaves the site in a westward direction via the slip road to veer right onto the A2, at the same time as traffic on the A2 veers left on the slip road to continue into Dunkirk. Increased flow of traffic from the site will increase the existing danger of collisions in this crossover. 4. There will be increased traffic returning in an easterly direction on the already dangerous very short slip road from Dunkirk onto the A2. 5. This would be the nearest drive-through McDonald's for Faversham. No local will use Brenley Corner if they don't have to, so instead they will drive through the already congested lanes and Bourton and Dunkirk villages. 6. The application assumes staff will arrive by car. This is unlikely as employees will be young and on minimum wage. There is no provision on the plan for cyclists nor pedestrian. 7. The site is accessible by the number 3 bus. However, to arrive or leave the site in an easterly direction, travellers have a choice of a safe quarter-of-an-hour walk to a bus stop or a 4-minute walk to the nearest one, which involves crossing the very busy A2 dual carriageway. Some workers on the site already choose the latter, and it is feared guests in the Holiday Inn on the other side of the A2 would do the same. Some environmental concerns. McDonald's plan for rubbish collection is insufficient. KCC say it is too dangerous for their staff to pick up litter from the slip road, unless there is a full closure of that road. Risk assessments would presumably not let McDonald's staff do it either. 2. Disturbance to ancient woodland ecosystems. And 3. The Dunkirk Parish Council would ask for full noise, air quality, horizontal and vertical light assessments to be carried out. Dunkirk Parish Council respectfully requests that this application be refused. Should the committee be minded to grant this application, DPC requests the addition of a number of conditions. 1. A condition to discuss with DPC regarding an S106 to include substantial and sustainable benefits to the community. 2. A TRO regarding the speed and parking along the slip road, both west and east of the site. Consideration should be given to restrict traffic from travellers of Brotherhood Wood turning right onto the site in direct opposition to the traffic leaving the site. And 3. A realistic scheme for rubbish collection. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. Can I ask, please, Miss Sarah Mokes, please? Yeah, come through here, please. It's not daunting, promise. Take a seat, please. It's the button on the left-hand side. When you are ready, again, you have 3 minutes. The microphone is yours.
The following comes courtesy of Bruce Bamber of Railton, who questions whether the proposed drive-through will primarily attract passing traffic. He writes, Table 4F of the TA shows that between 12 and 29% of trips would be entirely new to the highway network. It appears that KCC and National Highways have taken this at face value and based their decisions on an assumption that the majority of vehicles visiting the facility would not be new to the network. However, both categories of existing trips in the table could also be new to the local network, having diverted from elsewhere. This could mean up to an additional 79% of trips on Friday and 68% on Saturday could be new to the site and new to this section of the A2. It is therefore possible that the vast majority of trips would be new to this section of the A2. The misinterpretation of the data relating to new trips appears to have led Swale Environmental Protection to conclude that there is no need to assess potential air quality impacts. The servicing arrangements require a significant proportion of the on-site car parking to be kept free, including both disabled bays. Given that most of the 15 staff would need a parking space and the proposed parking provision falls 4 spaces short of standards, it has not been clearly demonstrated that deliveries could be made without disrupting access. The applicant fails to demonstrate how refuse collection and the removal of waste cooking fat could be safely achieved. Currently, there is a single lane serving both the westbound on-slip from Gate Services and the westbound off-slip for the Dunkirk Junction. This arrangement does not comply with standard DMRB design in that merging and diverging movements are combined over a short distance. Any significant increase in the use of the on-slip could therefore lead to adverse highway safety impacts. Thank you, Bruce. McDonald's brags about consulting the public over its various development proposals. We are committed to working closely with the local community ahead of submitting a public planning application, they say. Well, not here. And we're not loving it. The previously agreed permission was for a coffee shop. A 24-hour McDonald's drive-through is an entirely different proposition. They attract horrendous traffic queues, especially at tea time. Worse, they're magnets for antisocial behaviour. Astonishingly, Kent Police haven't been consulted. The sequential test is a joke. Woods Garage and the Queen's Head. I'd like to nominate the vacant site next to the new Aldi. At least that's edge of town. Unlike the officer, I fail to see how enabling the expansion of a global fast food chain can be construed as supporting economic growth in the rural area. It will be an unmitigated disaster. I urge you to reject the application.
Ms Smokes, thank you very much indeed. And finally, we have Mr. Charlie Brown, agent, please. Yeah, I've got you. Don't worry. Mr. Brown, same rules apply to you. It's the button on the left-hand side of the monitor. As soon as you're ready, you have the 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. My name is Charlie Brown and I'm speaking on behalf of McDonald's this evening. Our development team has worked closely with officers throughout the application to develop our proposals, undertaking extensive ecological landscaping and highways work. We are pleased that the officers are recommending approval for the application before you this evening. The site used to contain a hotel and car parking. The hotel has since been demolished and the wider site is now closed and overgrown, offering no social or economic benefit to the local community. A drive-through coffee shop was approved on the site in 2020. When compared to the previously approved scheme, our proposal seeks to provide enhanced landscape and ecological benefits. We've engaged with Kent County Council to further enhance our landscape and ecological mitigation to help provide significant buffers around the built form on the site. We have undertaken suitable transport assessments and are pleased that both Kent Highways and National Highways have no objection. If approved, the application will help redevelop a brownfield site, enhancing the existing service area, creating over 100 new jobs across a range of full and part-time roles. McDonald's are proud to pay above the minimum wage for those under 21 and above the national living wage for those over 21. McDonald's are committed to maintaining a clean environment, and the team at this proposed restaurant will conduct 3 daily litter patrols covering a 150-metre radius, collecting all litter, not just McDonald's packaging. McDonald's franchisees go further, organising local events such as in Sittingbourne. Staff have helped a local school launch an anti-litter campaign to encourage students to dispose of litter properly. Addressing antisocial behaviour and ensuring community safety are key priorities. All shift managers are trained in conflict resolution, and McDonald's work closely with the police and council to address any concerns. All restaurants are equipped with CCTV, and protocols are in place to minimise customer noise and ensure the safety of both staff and customers. Sustainability is at the heart of McDonald's business. McDonald's are committed to achieve net zero across its restaurants and offices by 2030 and achieving net zero across the entire business and supply chain by 2040. All electricity in this restaurant will come from 100% renewable sources, with over 80% of kitchen waste recycled. In summary, we believe this application will deliver significant benefits, supporting the local economy and providing additional amenities for users along the A2. We hope the committee is able to support our application this evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Okay, members, we have a process we need to abide by, and in doing so, I will, from the chair, propose the recommendation by the officer. I will then be looking for a seconder. What that allows us to do, hang on. What that allows us to do is to enter into the debate, okay, just to keep it to the protocol. So I shall move the recommendation. Councillor Harrison, thank you very much indeed. That is seconded. At this point, I believe the ward member is here, Councillor Rich Lehman. Rich, you know the process. You have 3 minutes to address this committee as soon as you start, please.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me the opportunity to express my strong opposition to this application. Whilst it's true that the applicant has set out the case for investment and job creation in a very slick brochure and in a speech just now, I have some serious concerns which I would urge the committee to consider before a decision is made, some of which has been touched upon and some of which I'll go into slightly more detail with here. The first and most pressing issue is the volume of additional car journeys this development is likely to generate. The site's position between Faversham and Canterbury means that a very large proportion of the visits made to this drive-through every day will involve vehicles making a 14-mile round trip, which is the distance from the site and then back to Faversham. It's unlikely many Canterbury residents will make the trip because they have other McDonald's branches to choose from in their city. A modest daily flow of such trips adds up. If around a quarter of the expected volume of custom each day travels from Faversham, that would equate to 2,800 extra vehicle miles per day, just over 1 million miles a year. This would be the equivalent of 140 additional tonnes of carbon dioxide emissions per year, simply for those travelling from Faversham to that drive-through outlet. At a time when local and national policy is focused on reducing car dependency and cutting emissions, it's absurd that this proposal would be recommended for approval. Alongside the environmental impact, and included in the environmental impact, is the issue of litter. Drive-through outlets are widely recognised as a significant source of roadside waste. As the A2 is a busy arterial route, litter thrown from cars can quickly accumulate, and local authorities would face challenges in clearing the waste, as litter picking on A roads often requires costly and disruptive road closures. Whilst McDonald's and the previous speaker has highlighted the daily litter patrols within a 150-metre radius of the site, this does not address the broader problem of packaging and food waste being discarded further afield. The vast majority of that which leaves the site is unlikely to be discarded in the first 150 metres. The result is a degraded local environment and a financial burden on councils and taxpayers. The economic benefits of this proposal also warrant scrutiny. The applicant suggests that 100 or however many jobs will be created. It's unclear how many of these will be full-time secure positions. Whilst new jobs are welcome, we must also consider that whether this employment genuinely offsets the potential negative impacts on existing local businesses, especially the multitude of independent food outlets in Faversham and Canterbury, which may lose trade to a multinational competitor, thereby extracting value from our local economies. There are wider concerns about the nature of development. Drive-throughs by design encourage idling engines and increased emissions. Does that mean my time's up already? Great. They promote car-centric patterns of development which run counter to the goals of encouraging active travel and reducing reliance on private vehicles. There are also public health implications, as the convenience of a drive-through can promote unhealthy eating habits, despite the best efforts of McDonald's to offer healthier options. Finally, there are safety considerations, but I'll leave that because that's been touched on quite a lot by the previous two speakers against. In summary, while redeveloping a brownfield site and creating new jobs may seem positive, the negative consequences of this proposal are substantial. The additional car journeys and associated emissions, the increased litter burden, questionable job quality, and broader impacts on the local economy and on public health all point to a development that is not in the best interests of our community or our environment. I urge the committee to reject this application and instead support solutions that promote sustainable transport, protect the local environment, and deliver genuine long-term benefit for residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lehman. See, you saw a display of flexibility there immediately. I think before we get into debate, members, it would be useful if Luke gives us a quick presentation just to cement some of those ideas for the members. I think it would be useful. So, Luke, please.
Thank you, Chairman. So, at the risk of deja vu, I'll reintroduce the scheme a little bit and go through some of the key points. So the application relates to the site that formerly accommodated the Travelodge at Gate Service Station, Dunkirk, adjacent to the A2 westbound carriageway between Faversham and Canterbury. You can see on the plan there, it's situated between the A2 London Road and Bleanwood South local wildlife site. Oh, sorry. Yeah, apologies for that. So as you can see, it's situated between A2 London Road and the Bleanwoods South local wildlife site, which encloses the site to the east, south and west. The woodland is designated as protected ancient woodland. It's covered by tree preservation orders. There's just an aerial image just to provide a little bit more context. The application seeks consent for the construction of a new restaurant with drive-through facility, car parking, landscaping and associated works, following the demolition of the former hotel, which is already occurred following a successful demolition notice application that was previously submitted. The new restaurant be located on an existing area of hard standing to the south of the petrol station, with the location of the former hotel being utilised for the provision of car parking and landscaping. It will be accessed through the service area, service station service area, and the existing openings to the site would be maintained with a new internal route arranged to circulate traffic around the petrol station. In total, 37 car parking spaces will be provided, in addition to 2 disability bays, 4 motorcycle parking spaces and 3 or 4 EV charging bays to be confirmed. An extensive landscaping scheme is proposed, which includes the planting of a significant number of native species along the southern and western edges of the site, as well as a new landscape strip, which is proposed to enable retention of vegetated screening along the northern edge. Large area of mixed planting and scrub is also proposed along the eastern and southern edges, which would provide a buffer to the ancient woodland. The landscaping scheme also forms part of a detailed biodiversity enhancement plan, which when combined with a purchasing of habitats units for off-site habitat contributions, would provide a 10% net gain to meet the requirements set out within the Bolton and Dunkirk neighbourhood plan. And now this slide shows the elevations of the former Travelodge, and I think it's worth noting that the site has been part of a roadside service area since 1976, and for many years has provided parking and services for the former Travelodge and the petrol filling station. It was also previously granted planning permission in 2020 by the planning committee for the construction of a new coffee shop, which this slide here shows you. It gives you the site plan and a couple of elevations for that development. As you will see, the landscaping in that scheme was significantly less than what's proposed within the current scheme. Now, just to go for some elevations, that's the proposed elevations of the proposed restaurant. Floor plans and roof plan. The floor plan shows a dining area that covers 79 seating spaces. And then some photos of the site. So this is from the slip road from the A2. The site you can see is, well, you barely see it, is screened behind the petrol station and the trees at the front of the site there. Again, these are showing the approach. Left image is showing the approach into the site through the service station and then out of the site on the right hand side, which is to the rear of the petrol station. And then some images that show the site in its current condition at the moment. The one on the left is showing the former location of the Travelodge building, and then to the right and the following images show the main kind of hard standing that used to be car parking area. More images of that area there. And these are images looking back towards the petrol station and shows the accesses there, which would be reutilised for the scheme. Yeah, that's the end of the presentation.
Fabulous, thank you, Luke. Right, I open it up for debate. Who wants to start? I saw Councillor Kavanagh and then Councillor Winkless.
Thank you, Chairman. I was born and brought up in Faversham, so I know the area well. There's been a long-standing precedent to a refreshments provision there. The officer said since 1976, as a teenage biker, I remember going in and getting a big mug of tea in there, certainly by 76, and it was not new then. My other half was a trucker in the late 60s. He remembers going in there then. So it's been a long-standing place where people passing can get something to eat or drink. I regularly go through to Canterbury, although I note the photographs that Councillor Mokes sent us quite late. When I've gone past, there haven't been all the lorries parked up there. So as it stands, I think I may well vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanagh. Councillor Winkless and then Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. It was a travel lodge beforehand, so there was obviously vehicles going in and out to and from the travel lodge. In planning terms, I consider it to be a brownfield site, and I feel that if we was to turn this down on planning law, we wouldn't have a leg to stand on. So basically, at the moment, I will listen to this debate, but I'm leaning towards recommending acceptance for the development. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Winkless. Always to know the way you're leaning. Councillor Thompson, please.
Well, let's bring up quite a few things. Hopefully it's okay. One is the need. There isn't currently a need for a McDonald's. St Dunstan's and Harbledown rejected and do not want a McDonald's at their end. The same in Faversham. The locals rejected, did not want a McDonald's. It goes against Sporton's local plan, and as the Chairman pointed out, we should look at local plans. If people make the effort to do that, we should adhere to that. They do not want a McDonald's there. Next thing to look at is crime. Currently, if we look at one that was put forward in Chorley, this is quite damning, of Essex Police. There's more crime and disorder in McDonald's than in any licensed premises. The police weren't spoken to. The next one's litter. When we look at litter, McDonald's, this is from Keep Britain Tidy, did a survey. McDonald's produce 52% of all fast food waste, litter. So when we look at it, there's 48,500 fast food outlets in the UK. McDonald's have 1,470 outlets. That means their customers produce 17 times more waste, litter, than any other fast food outlet. That's worth bearing in mind when we agree at McDonald's. So their clients are 17 times more likely to throw their litter out the door. Next one is KCC Ecology, failure to locally consent. They didn't talk to Kent Wildlife Trust. They didn't talk to Kent Woodland Trust. They didn't talk to the RSPB. All of these guys surround this site. This is an ancient woodland site. When we go back to what we were saying earlier, it's been a petrol station since 1976. That may be the case, but we moved on now. We know that the priority shouldn't be given to driving and fast food. So there's a different view of that now. What I feel is Kent Wildlife Trust, Kent Woodland Trust and the RSPB would probably have a different thing to say. One, there's a triple SI on the opposite side of the carriageway, so people then heading back to Canterbury, that litter will get expelled, usually up to 15 miles from the site within that range. And as pointed out earlier, McDonald's will only clear up from 150 metres from the actual site. So that means they don't even leave the actual area to clear up all the litter. And then moving on, it would undermine the current process that Kent Wildlife Trust, Kent Woodland Trust and the RSPB are working on in connecting the Blean, and that's worked with the wider Blean project. So what we don't want to do is add a McDonald's to the middle of that with a lot of traffic, a lot of litter. It would affect 30 by 30, the local nature recovery scheme. I feel that this proposal's completely inappropriate to a rural environment. We may have the A2, but we've moved on from fast food through dual carriageways. The locals don't want it in these different areas. What we should be looking at is something that's far more appropriate for this area. As the Blean moves forward and we give more access to the Blean, we get more understanding of the wild areas of the Blean, we could have something far better, a bit like Bedgebury, where they've got a lovely visitor centre. This site would be brilliant for that, educating people on the Blean, views of the Blean, and then central walks from the Blean. So for me, I'd have to be pretty vehemently against this proposal. It doesn't offer anything. The profits that'll be made will be heading off to, BlackRock, Vanguard. It won't stay in the local pockets. So bear that in mind when the locals pay their money out. So for me, it's a no.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Baldock.
Thank you, Chairman. I started, when I first read this, thinking, yeah, this is good. But having heard some of the comments, I think it is the drive-through aspect of this that gives me concerns. When we heard the parish speaker, or the parish councillor speaking, she referred to a report by Railton. There doesn't seem any reference to that in this report. I don't know if they submitted it beforehand or if this is a last-minute addition, but I have a lot of respect for what Railton's reports are, and if they're challenging what KCC Highways are saying, then I think that's worthy of further consideration. I'm not sure from the report if 7.5.5 is a response to the Railton report or whether or not it's just a report, a response to general concerns from the parish council. But if it isn't a response to Railton, I think we ought to have got a response to Railton, albeit it may have come in late. Those of us who lived in the west of the borough will be familiar with the problems of litter largely from the bobbing McDonald's, which can be found strewn along the A2, A249 and many rural roads, more than 150 metres away from the McDonald's itself. You have to eat your Big Mac pretty quick to dump your rubbish within 150 metres. I'm wary of exacerbating the current situation in the east of the council so that it becomes as bad as we're having it in the west. There is difficulty in collecting this detritus because of the roads. As somebody has said earlier, you need a road closure sometimes to actually access some of this rubbish. The A249 is a state. We need to be we want people to be proud of our borough. We want people coming into the borough to have a good impression of it. If we're going to extend the range of litter that we've currently got in the west even further, I think that's a negative situation. If this was just a freestanding restaurant, people go in, they eat, I would have a lot less problems with it. But having heard the comments made about the litter, I think they're right. I think this is an environmental negative that we're going to impose on that part of the borough, and for that reason I have my concerns, but I'd also like to know a bit more about our response to the Railton report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Baldock. Mr Thompson, you've got seconds, then I'll let you come in.
Yeah, it's only to point out that the coffee shop permission, since then, a cost has been built. So, and that was already in a building that was already there at the time. So I just thought I'd bring that up.
Thank you very much. Councillor Martin, Ben Martin.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I think we're getting very hung up on who the applicant is, which we cannot consider. That is not a consideration for us. It is what is substantially different from what is existing as a planning permission. And realistically, what's different is that we get better biodiversity net gain versus what we have currently with permission. It might not get built out, but that's not the point. I have great sympathy for the position of members who are against, but based upon the planning knowledge, which is what we're supposed to be implementing here, I cannot see a reason that is viable to object or to refuse the permission that would stand up to the scrutiny of an inspector. Yes, we can all argue that McDonald's customers tend to throw more of their litter around than other patrons of other establishments. Yes, we need to educate those persons. That is not necessarily on the business. The business should pay for the education, yes, but it is not on the business. They're not the ones throwing the litter out of their car window. It is the individual person, and there has to be individual responsibility somewhere. And that's the right place to put it. When it comes to roles within drive-thrus, I'm one of the people that have actually worked in a drive-thru. They are generally better paid than staff on the high street. And McDonald's was known as an employer who invested quite heavily in its people at a very young age onwards. Most of their employees, if they're there for more than a year or two, will get management training, hospitality training, and will go on to have careers in the industry that are well paid further on. They are not the big mean employer that people like to make out at times that they are. Certainly they were on a par with Whitbread, who I worked for at the time in a drive-through Costa. If you want a big evil corporation that comes in and cuts wages down to the minimum, look at Coca-Cola when they took over Costa. You saw the wages go right through the floor. So
be careful, Mr Martin, please. Be careful.
I can say it because my wages were cut, as was my position. But yes, it is very much a case that this is, it's acceptable given what we have permission for on that site already. There's nothing at the moment to stop Starbucks but opening up a drive-through themselves with that existing permission opposite a Costa, which would probably be a bit worse.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. You did very well in naming virtually every outlet of fast food, where we're only talking about one here, so congratulations. Right, there's a couple of questions that have come out of that dialogue, and I'm going to ask Luke if you can just confirm the comment regarding Railton, whether it's pertinent with this application through this council, and also a quick name check on the consultees and who didn't respond, please.
So in terms of the Railton report, we've not seen that report. So it's not been submitted, so it hasn't been reviewed. In terms of the consultees with in terms of wildlife, Kent County Council's ecology team biodiversity officer has been consulted. We have the tree officer and the forestry commission have been consulted also, in considering the and Natural England, and considering impacts on wildlife and the ancient woodland.
Splendid. So, for reference, we haven't seen the Railton report, so we need to strike that. I see no more hands. Mr. Thompson, I'll be very lenient. Please. How many bites of the cherry do you want?
Well, I feel I'm probably the only one on this side, but for me, the Blean is such an important section of ancient woodland. I've got a little just left it here. These are comments from Kent Wildlife Trust. These sites represent some of the most ecologically rich and culturally significant landscapes. The Woodland Trust, one of the most scenic and diverse examples of ancient woodland. The RSPB, the Blean Complex, is one of the most significant areas of lowland woodland habitat in the UK. None of these guys have been consulted. The back group, this area of ancient woodlands is extremely important for local populations of various woodland bat species. Again, I bring back that we would be able to defend it under these points. As a hotel, it was a very different impact to a fast food restaurant. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Sorry, Councillor Thompson. I refer to page 83 and 84 and 85 of the report, where the full details of those that have been consulted and their comments, which everybody has seen. So, that has been proposed and seconded. Those in favour of the development, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those against. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those abstained. None. That is 10 for and 4 against. In line with the officer recommendation, that is then approved, and for the case officer to issue the letter to the applicant. Thank you very much. Right, moving swiftly on. We are now item 7, which is 2.2 of your agenda pack. Application 23-505365, an outline application, land at the rear of Eden Meadow, Newington, Kent, ME97JH. So to start the ball rolling, can we have an officer update, please? Ian.
Thank you, Chairman. The only update is that the has been circulated. It sets out that the parish councillor has withdrawn their calling, and sets out comments of the chairman of the parish council's planning committee, and a interested party has submitted a comment identifying a difference between two different plans, which are indicative because it's an outline application with layout reserved. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. In that case, there is no objection to this. Is that correct?
There are from interested parties.
But not from...
And the parish council haven't stated that they've withdrawn their objection.
Okay, cool. We have, please, Leah Needham, the applicant. Good evening. I'd like to take the seat. The button you've probably heard on the left-hand side. As soon as you press the button, you have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, members. My name is Leah Needham, Planning Executive at Esquire Developments. We are a multi-award-winning SME developer based in Longfield, Kent, and we have built a strong reputation for building high-quality, bespoke developments throughout Kent. We are an all-electric developer, meaning we no longer use gas boilers and favour air source heat pumps and a fabric-first approach to our homes. We are passionate about bringing forward high-quality developments and also work alongside other SMEs in the Kent network to deliver much-needed housing, focusing on design and playing our part in helping to reduce climate change. The proposals before you are an outline application for up to 25 dwellings with policy-compliant affordable housing and full Section 106 contributions. Working alongside officers, all technical matters relating to landscape, heritage and highways have been fully assessed, resulting in no objections from any of the statutory consultees. Furthermore, the application itself received a limited number of public objections, and as advised by officers tonight, both the parish and local ward member have removed their objections. This low-density development is not only characteristic of its location, but also lends itself to generous plot sizes, allowing for over-provision of on-plot parking, ample garden sizes and substantial open space. We wish to reaffirm our commitment to bringing forward our bespoke approach to design and density and our proven track record of delivering high-quality homes for local people. We respectfully request that Officer's recommendation for approval is supported. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Leah. Members, I will propose that from the Chair for approval in line with Officer's recommendation. Councillor Harrison, seconded. Thank you. Councillor Baldock.
Thank you, Chairman. I feel I might be blowing in the wind in this one, but anyway. I've got a couple of concerns. 7.16 regarding agricultural land. The compelling argument is that the land is not currently in agricultural use, said a previous inspector, and therefore there would be no loss of BMV. If we were to accept that precedent, it sets a green light to agricultural land being neglected just so that they can say it is no longer in use in future. That just seems to me an inane approach to planning. Now, the inspector may have made that decision. Not all inspectors follow the same logic as we've learnt in the past. But to give weight to an argument that if you neglect your land, you'll be able to get planning permission really does seem worrying. Now, the second part is the impact on the heritage building. Because this is, and the open space, because this is only outline, we have seen in the past, at outline stage, we approve things on the basis of future promises. And then the land goes to a third party, or the party comes back with a completely different reserved matters application. So I'm concerned that the retention of a large area of site as an informal open space and a considered landscaping scheme, retention of best views, that's fine in outline. How can we ensure that that actually stays the issue when we come to reserved matters? Because I remember Manor Farm, we negotiated and got 9 or 10 bungalows at outline and gave it permission. And then it came back with 3 bungalows because a new party had bought it, and we ended up not getting what it had been agreed on. And similarly with the archaeology report, we have a reference to it being significant, potentially highly significant area. There is a requirement to do some archaeological works before the design. But what I would like to see is, and I'm not sure whether Condition 15 fully addresses this or not, but I would like to see the results of that archaeological report survey being agreed and signed off before we have to have the reserved matters application. Now it says prior to any reserved matters application, they will have reported a programme of works. A programme of works is different to having actually done the work. Now we need to see whereabouts in that site the important archaeology, if there is any, comes forward. What we've had opposite was a Roman temple found, but by that point it was too late. We'd already agreed detailed planning application and then it had to be moved. What we need is to have that detailed information and then arrange the reserved matters application so that it allows in situ preservation of anything if it's important that's found. And is there a way that we can tie that into the conditions, potentially beefing up Condition 15? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baldock. Ian, can you come back on that? And in particular, I picked up that point as well on 515. It says it can be addressed through a condition. I'll be looking for a suitable condition, Councillor Baldock. But yeah, Ian, please.
Yeah, we can amend condition 15 to require effectively A and B to be done prior to submission of the reserved matters application. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Winklis.
Thank you, Chair. Can the officer actually put up a photo of the actual land as it stands and located to the existing development, please? That's actually a drawing. Have you actually got a photograph of the land, of the ground?
If I may, Chairman, that's an illustrative layout. It is an outline application.
Right.
Excuse me. So this is only indicative, but that is the plan that's that is the indicative layout. Yeah.
Okay, so you've just...
That's the best you're going to get,
I was going to say, by the Chair, that's obviously all you can show me tonight. Okay, yeah, thanks.
Is that all right?
Well, I would like to have seen a photo, but whatever.
Do you know where the site is?
I know roughly where it is, yes.
Okay. So you can visualise it in your mind.
Oh, he's got something up there now, hasn't he? Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, that's what I wanted. Thank you, Chair.
Happy, Councillor Winklis?
Yes, Chair.
Good. Councillor Hunt, please.
I remember other applications around this site with this committee dealing with it, and we've also got obviously the appeal that was done at the time where an inspector has said about the loss of the land. What it does say in here is not that it has just been left, it's been used as grazing. Okay, it's not agricultural land, but it has grazing. I think from memory in the past there's been horses around some of the land on here, and that was an argument made when we looked at it last time. But keeping of horses is a different thing to agriculture, and if no action was taken at that time and that allowed that, then it is classed as developed land. And because of that, and we saw the photo there, you can see it's not just been left, it has been used. There is an appeal decision which is in law that we can't go against that. I don't think there's any argument that this land can't be used, and everything else is well covered in the report, and the parish council and ward member have withdrawn objections. So if that had been done before, it probably wouldn't have even come to committee and it would have been delegated to officers to be approving it. So I see no reasons to go against that recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Anybody else? Great. So with the wording, appropriate wording that Councillor Baldock, you want to put that on the floor?
Well, I just wanted to check that map, that photo he's got up. Is that a public right of way through the middle of it?
I don't believe so, Councillor.
Just a path that people use. Right. Okay.
So the wording that you suggested, or Ian has suggested, are you happy with that?
As an amendment, yeah.
Members happy with that? No. Superb. All those that has been proposed and seconded. All those in favour of the application, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Those against? That is 1. Any abstentions? That is none. Therefore, the application is therefore approved as per the recommendation. Thank you very much indeed. We're doing very well. Agenda item 2.3. This is on page 141 of your agenda pack. This is agenda or application number 25-500-154- Alpha Victor. Can I ask you please to put a warm welcome to Kelly this evening. This is her maiden speech. And Kelly, can you give us a brief update, please?
Sorry, thank you, Chairman. So, with regards to this application, it's for an advertisement consent. The first slide is the site location plan, and you can see the red boundary of the site. This is where the sign is proposed to go. It's to the front of Kemsley Village Hall, and it's the land is council-owned land. There's an aerial screen, and you can see it's outlined in red there. The next slide is the proposed elevations. If I'm going too fast, let me know. The next slide is a closer view, and there's materials on there as well as the scale of the proposed sign. And then the last is the photograph of the site. You can see the piece of land here. And that's the end of the presentation.
Kelly, thank you very much indeed. Through the chair, I shall propose a recommendation. Councillor Braun, thank you very much indeed for seconding. Members, any questions? Councillor Baldock.
I think it's very nice and will be a welcome addition to that community.
I endorse that. Thank you. No further hands. All those in favour, please show. That is 14. Those against? 0. Any abstentions? 0. Thank you very much indeed. And well done, Kelly. Okay, now we go back, members. You'll see the reasoning for it. This is agenda item 1.1. This item was deferred and is subject to an appeal. It doesn't matter whether you're at the first meeting or not. You're looking at this application as a fresh application this evening. So please bear that in mind. I'm gathering my thoughts. Okay. Ian, can we have an update, please, if there is an update?
There's no update, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I then call Nicola Butlin, representing Borden Parish Council, who I believe is remote. Nicola, are you online and can you hear us?
I can.
Superb. You have 3 minutes, please, from when you start speaking.
Thank you. Thank you. I am here on behalf of Borden Parish Council, who object to this application and would like to reiterate the following. The land is categorised as Grade 2, 3A and 3B agricultural land. Development on grades 2 and 3A go against swale planning policies and national guidelines not to develop best and most versatile agricultural land. During this time of reduced food security and declining global yields, it would be unwise to take it out of production. This application is visually detrimental to the setting of the surrounding area of outstanding natural beauty, a huge negative impact to noise and light pollution and the countryside gap. Borden Parish Council recognises that the Council and the Inspector may take the view that this proposal merits an exception due to the climate change crisis. Borden Parish Council respectfully asks that if this is the case, conditions are imposed to reduce the negative impact to include 1. All construction traffic should enter the site via Vigo Farm. No traffic should enter the thoroughfare of the Ode Street settlement. Working hours need to be considerate to residents and wildlife. 3. Dormouse corridors. Hedge removal will destroy these. It is imperative that thorough examination prior to the commencement of the proposal is carried out diligently. 4. A detailed plan is a necessity for the wildflower meadows. 5. No weed killers, herbicides or pesticides or any other such chemicals to be used. 6. No use of lighting to support the dark sky policy and prevent detrimental impact to the biodiversity of the surrounding area. 7. Decommissioning. The plan for this should be submitted 24 to 36 months prior. A condition to return the land to agricultural use should be written in. This completes Borden Parish Council's statement, and thank the Council for the opportunity to speak this evening. And given the opportunity, we'll speak at the appeal hearing in August. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. Are you a councillor, Nicola? Just for our...
Yes.
You are. Sorry, I should have addressed you as councillor then. Apologies.
I'll let you off.
Thank you very much. That's very generous. Is it Councillor Brian Clark from Bredgar Parish Council?
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, my name is Brian Clark and I'm the chairman of Bredgar Parish Council. I'm here this evening to outline the reasoning behind Bredgar Parish Council's formal response to the planning application for the proposed solar farm. The site in question lies within the setting of the Kent Downs National Landscape, an area afforded the highest level of protection under the National Planning Policy Framework and Section 245 of the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act. Furthermore, the land is classified as high-grade agricultural land, which is both valued and protected under policies within the Swale Local Plan. Bredgar Parish Council fully respects and upholds these protections. Such protections should only be overridden in the most exceptional of circumstances, and therefore this application be refused. However, we are very aware of the climate emergency ourselves and declared by Swale Borough Council. We recognise the need for urgent action, and we were mindful of that as we reviewed this application. As part of our review, 4 councillors visited a comparable solar farm site locally, walking the surrounding public rights of way to assess its setting, management and environmental impact. What we observed did not reassure us. The site appeared to be poorly managed, with missed opportunities to enhance biodiversity and reduce its visual and ecological impact. We concluded that more could have been done and should be done to manage such sites responsibly and in keeping with their surroundings. With respect to the proposed site at Vigo, our local knowledge tells us it has been intensively farmed for over 50 years, and this has resulted in the loss of hedgerows, a shift towards monoculture and a marked decline in biodiversity. We believe that any new development should actively reverse such environmental degradation. Our formal response therefore included a set of proposed conditions aimed at mitigating harm and enhancing benefits if this application were to be approved. These covered 6 key areas: protection and enhancement of the environment and biodiversity, improved land management practices, especially concerning herbicide use, restoration and management of hedgerows, protection of dark skies, robust decommissioning plans and the reinstatement of the land for agricultural use, careful management of the construction phase to limit disruption. Should the Planning Committee determine that the climate emergency does indeed constitute exceptional circumstances warranting approval of this application, we strongly urge that our proposed conditions or suitably worded equivalents, be formally incorporated into the planning consent. This would ensure that the inevitable impacts on the landscape and biodiversity are properly mitigated. To their credit, the applicant has since provided us with a written response that demonstrates an intention to address our concerns. Should the application be approved, we would hope that this intent is followed through with strong practical commitments on the ground, resulting in meaningful environmental improvements and responsible long-term site management. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Right, I shall move the officer recommendation. Is that seconded? It is seconded. Councillor Martin, Ben Martin. Thank you. Ian, can we have an update, please? And it's worth, I think, just outlining where this application sits in relation to... Sorry, Councillor Baldock.
I'd just like to declare that although I sit on Borden Parish Council who have spoken, I took no part in their deliberations.
Okay, thank you very much. You might get 2 chances to say that. It's worth just outlining where we are as a council with this application, why we're seeing this application today, and where we stand in regards to any appeal that is underway. I urge members at this stage to think very carefully about what you say and how you vote. Okay? Right, Ian, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. First things probably for me to point out is that this isn't an appeal. We are showing you The purpose of today is to show you an amended set of plans that have been provided within the arena of that appeal. We aren't a decision maker because it's an appeal. The decision maker is the planning inspectorate. The reason we're here will largely be explained, but it is to seek your input as to how the amended plans change the view of the committee and therefore the council in respect of the proposals. We're not necessarily putting a recommendation before you. That will become clear why. So I'm sure you're familiar with it. The site is to the north of the M2, south of Road Street, either side of Vigo Lane, and the site is either side of Wrens Road. The proposal that was before you when it was a planning application, nothing more than that, involved the covering of the site with solar panels. The associated equipment is at the south part of the site, if you can see my mouse there, and the construction area and access is over there. You'll spot there's a tree that would be retained with a green spot right in the middle. You note that the lines running through the site that aren't the roads are, two of them are public footpaths and one is the route of the overhead lines. The equipment associated is shown there. It's got a connection point straight onto the grid at the site. These are the solar panels, and this is the storage cabins and substation boxes that are part of it. And that was the access through Vincent Farm. At the south of the site, screening was proposed up to a height of 7.5 metres to reduce glint and glare onto the M2. And this is the agricultural land classification plan, a mixture of 2, 3A and 3B. This plan shows the footpaths of the area. In particular, I'd flag up ZR138, which runs through the western part of the site, ZR134, which runs through the eastern part of the site, and ZR137, which runs along the western boundary. As you can see, there are many others, but they're the three that are most directly interacting with the site. Heritage assets of the area, some local, a low level of heritage harm was identified in the officer report at the time, but deemed to be outweighed by the benefits, and it wasn't a reason for refusal. But they are all the heritage assets of the area, so I thought they were worth flagging. The application was refused. These are the reasons. In summary, the first one, it was one reason for refusal, based on the fact that the harms in these three areas was not outweighed by the public benefits of the scheme. The first section relates to the visual impact, the impact of the lighting towers, and the impact on the adjacent AOMB, which is to the south of the M2. The second part relates to the public rights of way, the impact of the construction on the public rights of way, and the experience of the users of the public rights of way, and the knock-on effects for tourism and local use. And the third part was the loss of best and most versatile agricultural land. I stress that is we're going to toggle between the two a little, but that's the plan that was before you at the time, and that has been the subject of the appeal. Within the appeal, submissions of the applicant have included option 2. The position of officers is that the changes are quite significant, and so within the appeal proceedings we've put the position forward that the amended plans shouldn't be considered within the appeal. There's two tests, the substantive test and the procedural test, which comes out of case law, and these are set out within the planning inspector's guidance. The planning inspector has not told us whether they will be acting upon the first or the second set of plans. The pre-case management meeting set out that the inspector was likely to find that the substantive test was passed, i.e. is it within the ambit of a amendment test. The procedural test relates more to things like public consultation, which the council hasn't done because we didn't think it should be, if we didn't think that it was inappropriate. We thought it failed both tests, and alter our position if we did public consultation. The applicant has undertaken their own public consultation exercise, which is legitimate within an appeal process, and comments have been able to be made to the planning inspectorate and probably still could be. There will be an inquiry in August. Members of the public will be able to turn up and speak at that if they should wish. Our position, as I say, is that the amended plans are too different and shouldn't be taken forward, but it appears that there is at least a likelihood, some degree of likelihood, that the inspectorate might accept the use of the amended plans, and therefore it's deemed logical to put the plans back before you for your opinion. The officer recommendation in respect to the first application was to approve it. Council, this planning committee reached its conclusion, and so it's reasonable for this planning committee to have opportunity to comment on these amendments and advise us how they think the council should proceed. The changes, the most fundamental change is that you'll notice the easternmost two parts of the site, the two fields, have been removed from the proposal to cover with solar panels. They're still within the site, but there'd be no solar panels. They'd remain as they are now. At the northern part of the site, you can see that there's a gap between the red line and the, if I move my cursor, that area there, where previously the solar panels extended further north. The other changes relate to the positioning of the solar panels and the provision of hedges at either side of the footpaths here and here, which increases the spacing, and they've proposed to increase planting. There's a few other areas where they're proposing to increase planting from what you saw before. Are there any other changes? They're the most. The other key change is that they're reorientating the solar panels so that there's no need for the screening, because they'd be directed away from the M2 in such a way that the risk of glare on the M2 is less, so the screens would be removed. At the time that the application was put before you, the applicant, as part of the application, prepared various viewpoints. 4 of them they then worked up into photo montages to demonstrate what the site would appear like upon completion, and then again at year 15 once the landscaping has been established. I should stress it's a 40-year permission, which would be decommissioned at the end of it, but they've shown year 15 as the point when it will be established. I'll now run through the same images because they've done the same exercise for the amended plans, and you'll see the difference. So this is south of the M2 at the bend of Vigo Lane. You can see in the foreground, well, sort of in the foreground, that's the M2, and you can see the traffic running along it. Upon completion, the solar panels are in that area there. That was option 1, and option 2, fairly similar. In year 15, and I'll repeat the same exercise for the view from east, where the 2 footpaths meet to the east of Wrens Road. These lines are relevant because they showed that that top line is effectively the width of option 1 from that angle, and the bottom one is the option 2, and that's because they've removed the 2 fields at the southeast. So I'd recommend looking at this side over here because that's where the difference is, but obviously look at it all as a whole. You can see the difference between option 1 and option 2. And again, years 15 from the same perspective. 17A, this is effectively slap bang within the middle of the site on one of the public footpaths. Upon completion, there is a difference. And year 15. And this is the view from near Deans Hill within the AONB. National Landscape, sorry. And you're looking largely in this area here. Comments from Public Right of Way Officer have been received since the publication of the report. The states the amendments do reduce the impacts on the public right of way. The fencing and associated landscaping is set back to provide corridors that are wider, in some areas significantly wider. The widths are now consistent with those seen on other developments. Users will feel less enclosure as a result. And the removal of parcels 5 and 6, those at the east of the site, removes the impact on the adjacent footpath. There is inevitably residual harm to amenity given the landscape change, and this must be weighed in the balance, which is what officers and councillors did last time. In respect of the compound, Public Rights of Way officer says they prefer it to be further away, but that they'll be using the access from Vincent Farm, and that's their comment. As I've said, the request from the committee is for a steer. There's 2 options before you. Clearly the proposals are different, so it's effectively do the changes and the differences between the schemes lead you to conclude that the amended proposal could be found acceptable, or does it lead you to conclude that although it's different, there's still more harms than benefits to the degree that planning applications should be refused? In that scenario, we'd ask you how to ask your steer on how you've weighed the factors in the case. In terms of benefits and harms, they were all set out previously in the officer report and minutes. I'm loath to say too much because I'm not trying to persuade your opinion, but if you want me to talk about any of the benefits or harms, then please do ask.
Ian, thank you very much. Okay. I think stating the obvious is whatever commentary this committee makes tonight could impact upon the appeal. Okay? Could. I think what this demonstrates is we have an applicant that has vision and has listened. They've listened to this council. They didn't need to do this, in my opinion. They could have just stayed with what was originally proposed and seen it through the entire process. But that's not what we've got. Right. I saw Councillor No and then Councillor Baldock.
Thank you, Chair. As an avid hiker, I've traveled down a lot of different footpaths in this and other areas and understand the concerns regarding the feeling of being closed in due to the development. I've actually traveled down a footpath that went through a solar farm, and I do have to admit, it's not really a pleasant experience. Apologies if the exact distance has been stated somewhere about the length of the main footpath, but from the map it appears to be roughly about 500 meters, is that correct? This is a pretty significant length. Is there no way of including landscaping of any sort to mitigate the rather depressing 7 to 10 minute walk this would be? Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. I'll let Ian grab his details. I'll take Councillor Baldock and then we'll come back to Ian, please.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Obviously, we're weighing this up against the original proposal, which we refused, and I think the way that this has been dealt with is a bit, it's a bit unfair on our officers because we don't know. The inspector won't tell us which one she's going to consider. So our officers are having to deal with 2 potential options, one of which they've got a recommendation on, the other one may or may not come forward. So I think this is a bit unfair to our officers, the way this is working out. And of course that's why, because we haven't recognised the amendment, because we don't think it should be an amendment, it should be a new application, we don't do the consultation. Looking at this, the impact of this one compared to the original one, it is mainly the loss of the eastern fields and a little bit towards the north in the middle. I don't think it addresses our first objection. It will still result in the industrialisation of the site. It will still result in moderate adverse effects on the landscape and visual character, as our officer noted. It also has an impact on what used to be the Kent, or whatever it's now, Kent National Landscape. So I don't think it fully addresses our first objection. The second objection is lessened, but it is still, I think, significant. It is still likely to deter people, both local and tourists, from using the network, which in turn will have a harmful impact on amenity and well-being of prowl users and the local economy, and is therefore against those policies that were listed. We just heard the previous speaker refer to using these sorts of paths. This is an area that is well used and well walked because it is in part of the diminishing rural area. People do use this as a walk to businesses in Ode Street, which we do not want to impact on them. It could have a negative impact on them, so that's part of why we turned it down, and I don't see that is going to be significantly changed. I do accept that there is slightly less agricultural land being lost, but it's not huge. I don't think that significantly tilts the balance. So whilst I recognise that changes have been made, if this was put forward, I still think the balance is in favour of harm, because I don't see that the changes of that are significant enough to warrant a changing in the position. And of course, we have to be careful that we don't undermine our own previous decision, should that actually be what is heard at the appeal. So sticking purely on the changes, I don't feel that the changes fully address our original objections, Chairman.
Thank you. Before I bring in Councillor Thompson and Councillor Braun, Ian, you've got a commentary back for Councillor No.
Thank you, Chairman. I haven't got a distance as was asked for, but I can say that in terms of the public footpaths, the darker green lines are intended to be hedgerows planted. So that would, with the intention being that you see less over time of the solar panels, and that's one of the images that was prepared demonstrated that.
My apologies.
Okay, Councillor Thompson and then Councillor Braun, please.
Agree with Councillor Baldock. I don't think it changes, for me, the main point, which is best and most versatile when there's a lot of land that could be used for a solar within the swale area. So therefore, yeah, it doesn't cut the mustard, and for consistency of how I think, that's what I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Braun, please.
Thank you, Chairman. My view is that ultimately we have declared a climate emergency at this council, and with the new administration at KCC saying that they will review any and all climate spending, I think it's more important than ever to look at things we can, possibly steer on. And can I just ask for clarification? I do not believe it is the remit of this committee to force a landowner to use land for agricultural use.
I think I know the answer. Ian's looking quizzical as well. I don't think we can, as a council.
Through you, Chairman, we can't force anyone to do anything apart from through enforcement measures, perhaps, but not in this context, no.
Councillor Hunt.
Thank you. I was on holiday at the time this application was last discussed, so I had no comment on it before, and probably a lot of members of this committee also may not have even been here at that time. So it is a different view, maybe, to what was taken before. And personally, as say, officers recommended last time that it should be approved, and it was committee that decided to go a different way. Looking at everything, I wouldn't have agreed with that myself. Obviously, it's going through an appeal, and we can't make any decision now. But what I do think with this is they have obviously listened and trying to do something and putting it through the appeal process. It's a shame it does go down that route, but that is where it's going, and we have to deal with what we've got in front of us. I think that as they have tried to do something, we have got an option there that's been put forward. I can see this going to appeal, and if we don't agree with option 2, we'll probably get option 1. It will go through, and what is the best? Do we want to try and mitigate some of the concerns we've had before, or do we just want to carry on saying, well, actually, let's not bother with this one and take our luck? Personally, I think with the changes, option 2 should be included. At least it will then be looked at properly. Officers can go, depending how the committee go, but I would say option A, take it forward, say that we would have approved that, and hopefully get that, which would be better than option A.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Councillor Ben Martin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I'll caveat it straight away by saying I concur with the officers in terms of if it's not significant enough to be a new application, how can it be significant enough to change our minds? That being said, I think there are substantial changes here. We've already heard tonight about the changes to the NPPF wording, making it clearer as to how much weight we have to put into renewables. Option 2 is better than option 1. And like Councillor Hunt, I think A is probably where I would be leaning at the moment. It is just a really pig of a situation to be put in to say, you know, this isn't really a big enough change for it to be a new application, but is it big enough to change your view? Not that it's a change for some.
Thank you, Councillor Baldock.
I'm a bit concerned about this use of agricultural land and enforcement. Having seen what happened in an earlier application, an appeal reference to it not being used as agricultural land, and having a couple of months ago we had agricultural land that was basically hard standing and hadn't been used for agricultural land for a number of years. But if somebody starts planting some flowers and extending their garden into agricultural land, we crack down on them, which I agree with. Surely we have some way, if they're not using it for agricultural land, to penalise them. It just seems that if they're not using it for agricultural land, they must be using it for something else. And if they're using it for something else, is that not... Well, no, it's not relevant to this particular application, but it just concerns me that we have this agricultural land that's just being neglected, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Harrison, please.
Just briefly, I merely put my hand up to say I concur with Councillor Benjay and Councillor Hunt. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no more hands. I reiterate the point. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hunt, you want to come back?
I was just wanted to clarify what we're doing, because obviously there was a proposal and seconded, but there was no recommendation.
I'm going to come to that.
So, okay.
I think the word is steer.
Well, I was happy to propose that we steer to A.
Thank you. As I said at the start, I think this is in my experience, I don't think I've seen this before, where an applicant is going through the appeal process and there's another application potentially on the table. I was at that meeting, as you'll remember, and I did voice my concerns about going against the officer's recommendation. I won't say told you so, but I have fear of that. So, you can clarify, yes, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I need to say that it sort of picks up on what Councillor Hunt said earlier, that there'd be this is quite unusual for all the reasons that we've said, and there'd be scenarios in other walks of planning where an applicant would have one scheme at an appeal and a second application going through the process, and you'd consider it, and there may well be a conversation in those instances where the applicant would say, if this one's found acceptable, then I'll withdraw my appeal. Yeah. That's not unheard of. I'm not saying that's what the applicant would do here. I'm trying to paint a picture. Moving forward, if the council was to say option 2 would have been acceptable, there's a scenario where the inspector says, in that case, if all parties were to agree to use the plans in option 2, the option 1 might disappear off the table. With the inspector would only consider one of the plans. It's the first, I suspect, and I don't know, but I suspect that the first 20 minutes of the inquiry would, if it's not resolved beforehand in paperwork, which it could be, would be fixing the plan, and then the conversation would go from there. If there's a chance, if the committee agreed to do option A, that we could do that exercise in paper beforehand, but I don't know.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. As I said, I think what we're seeing here is an applicant that has demonstrated flexibility. Whether it's a large amount of flexibility or a small amount, they've shown flexibility, and they've listened to this council. They've listened to the observations and they've listened to the commentary. Seriously, in my experience, that does not happen all the time. It doesn't happen. You know, there are hundreds of appeals going through this land as we speak, and they don't have the time, the money, or the enthusiasm to do any of them, I can assure you. And as Ian said or suggested, if there is an easier option, and if people can agree, if the applicant and the council can agree, in principle, it's positive and it moves it forward. We'll do a show of hands.
Can we record a vote, please?
Of course you can. Sorry, Councillor Ball.
Point of order, I think you need multiple people to stand and call for a recorded vote.
Should what, sorry?
I think multiple people should stand and call for a recorded vote under the Constitution.
Okay, I've accepted that there will be a recorded vote, so I'm happy with that. Okay, thank you very much. So, we're talking about option 2. Yep, that's what we're talking about today. I want a simple agree or disagree. Okay, so if you agree with option 2, the answer is agree. If you disagree with option 2, the answer is disagree. And this is just a sounding stone for the officers during that process of the appeal. Yep. So that would be A in the context of... Sorry, yeah, A in the context of the report. So it is, we are voting for A. Okay, just to make it clear. We're voting for A, yeah, which is the revised. Voting on A. Okay, yes. Let's not get confused. Ian, for clarity, I've been here before.
Thank you, Chairman. Reading the room, I think you're voting on whether you take option A there, which is that you conclude that the amendments to the proposal are sufficient to make the proposal acceptable, and that is the way that we proceed, and that is finding option 2, plan, acceptable.
Perfect. Clear as mustard. Councillor Baldock.
Against option A. Disagree.
Councillor Booth, for. Councillor Hayden Braun.
4.
Councillor Anne Kavanagh.
4.
Councillor Simon Clark is not here. Councillor Lloyd Chapman. Councillor Kieran Golding.
4.
Councillor James Hunt.
Agree.
There's always one.
That's what you asked me for.
Councillor Ben J. Martin.
Agree.
Councillor Claire Martin.
Agree.
Councillor Paul Stephen.
Disagree.
Councillor Terry Thompson.
Disagree.
Councillor Tony Winkless.
Agree.
Oh, yeah, Councillor Tara No. I beg your pardon. Substitute for Peter Marchington.
4.
Thank you. And Councillor Harrison, last but least. Thank you very much. That is for Simon Clark. So I'll make that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in favour, and 1, 2, 3, 4 against. Thank you, members. I hope that gives you, Ian, suitable steer.
Thank you, Councillor.
What do you do with that now, just so we all know? You don't know, do you?
Liaise with the applicant, probably, as to how we'll take that forward into the appeal proceedings, and probably after that conversation, have a conversation with the inspectorate about how they wish to proceed.
Thank you very much. Thank you, members. Right, we are now on to part 5. Don't all run away. Something I've said on many occasions is when we look at the part 5s, the majority of us in this room have had a dealing with the part 5, either to approve or refuse. Generally, I find this part of the document really interesting and really informative, because you find lines within this document that are very helpful when you come to decide or you come to make a recommendation on an application, whether to refuse or whether to agree it. So what I want to do, I'm going to throw Joanne in this one. You've sat there saying nothing all evening, Joanne. So working down from 5.1, if anybody has any points or questions, we're going to go through them one at a time. Please holler. So 5.1. 5.2. 5.3. Oh, come on. Councillor Hunt, this on 5.3.
Yep. Just to say that I dealt with this right from the very beginning, this one. It's a shame to see this. It was a major impact on one of the residents there in their garden. Seems obviously officers agreed with that, and it's a shame that the inspector didn't.
Yep. 5.4. 5.5. 5.6. I thought somebody would have put their hand up on that one. We had lots of discussion about the sign. You're familiar, Councillor No. Do you want to comment on it? Go on, it's in your patch.
To be honest, I agree with the decision. The sign is pretty similar to what's already there. I don't have much more to say.
Great, we'll keep it short and sweet then. 5.7. Councillor Baldock.
Yeah, it's another one of these no policy basis cost decisions. I don't know how long this one has been in appeal, has been waiting for the appeal. But we've got a position where we're still implementing a request that we haven't got a policy basis for. Have we stopped requesting that now, and these are old ones that are just catching up through the system, or are we still trying to win on them?
Joanne.
Thank you. Yes, we have stopped requesting them now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ben Martin.
On the same one, I think it points to exactly what we've all been saying for a long while. We've really got to get a local plan through and adopted. We've got the evidence base, we've tried no end of times. If we keep going the way that we've been going, we are just going to continue to suffer the fate that we've done so far since 2019.
Thank you. 5-8. 5-9. And 5-10. 5-11. Excellent. Members, thank you very much indeed. That concludes our meeting this evening. Thank you for your time, officers. I formally close the meeting at 8:45. Thank you very much.